Well, they've done it. They have finally made a hero that I think can compete with Doctor Strange as the strongest Marvel Champions hero. Hello, welcome to Nelson All Over Cards. I am Nelson. Today we are talking about the iconic X-Men Wolverine. We're doing a deep dive on his kit, what kind of cards he likes. We're going to rank the aspects and then rank them in our overall ranking of all of the Marvel Champions heroes that we've done reviews on so far. So in Wolverine's alter ego, Logan has a setup ability to draw his claws. Now there's a lot of controversy around what happens if you draw this in your mulligan. Basically, what I have been playing is that if I draw it in my mulligan, it's an immediate scoop. We just go for it. I think it probably should start on the table. There's just a lot of confusion around all of that. He has a record-breaking 6 recovery just because he is going to be taking some damage, and this is going to be a reason to roll down, and that's about it. That's really the only reason. He has Logan's Cabin, which can be a reason to come down, but in all of my games I found I really never was going down to alter ego because his hero side is incredible. He has an amazing 2/2/2 stat line with a healing factor that says whenever you start your turn, you heal 2 damage. Absolutely bonkers. He can do so much healing, and that's because of his claws. The claws are a permanent upgrade that state that you can exhaust the claws, and instead of paying for an attack event, you can take damage equal to the cost and play it ignoring the resource cost. If you do this, the attack does gain piercing, and this is so insanely good because it just catapults his economy forward. Because he's healing so frequently, taking 2-3 damage to pay for some of these high cost events is not necessarily a huge detriment, especially if you know you're just going to heal it right back. He has a couple other cards in his kit that can heal, and so he's really good. He can just hit the ground running and pay for some really insanely high cost excellent attack cards. Let's look at some of his other cards in his kit. He has the Adamantium Skeleton, which is a 2-cost upgrade that is one of the most bonkers upgrades that I've ever seen. It gives you 3 different abilities. It gives you +4 hit points, taking up to 14 hit points, +1 attack, taking up to a 3 attack, and then all of his basic attacks gain piercing, which is a big deal, right? So piercing, you discard tough status cards before you make the initial attack. So now, even if the villain has tough, and we've been seeing a lot more villains that have tough, this kind of bypasses all of that. So he has piercing on his basic attack and as well as his events if he uses his claws. He has another card called Berserker Frenzy, which is a 2-cost upgrade that says whenever you take damage from an enemy attack, draw 1 card, and then you have to discard this when you do go to alter ego. I really like the idea of this card. I found I was not playing it as much as I really wanted to, mainly because I was kind of winning before it paid off too much. But I guess that's a good thing to have. If I drew this in my opening hand, I would definitely get it onto the table. The discarding when you go down to alter ego is not necessarily a huge detriment because, again, I'm not going down to alter ego that much with Wolverine. His thwarting card is called Tracked by Scent. This is the souped up version of Clear the Area. It's a 2-cost, 3-threat removal, and then if it removes the last 2 threat, you get to draw 2 cards. So, I don't know. It's good. It's a really good card. So you combine that with his 2 thwart on his hero side, and he really doesn't have an issue with any threat. And then a lot of the rest of his kit is then rounded out by his attacks, all which are very solid. He has Lunging Strike, which is a 3-cost for 8 damage. If you use your claws, it then gets overkill. He has Slice and Dice, which you perform 2 attacks of 3 damage each, and then Berserker Barrage, which I think is one of the most unique designs in his kit, which is 4 damage, and then if you destroy or kill an enemy, you can deal yourself 2 damage and then repeat this ability. So minion, just boom, 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 take all of the minions out and it's not going to be an issue. Talking about some of the gray cards that I look to put in pretty much every single one of my Wolverine decks, Endurance is right there at the top of the list. Endurance is a 1-cost upgrade, gives you +3 hit points, taking him to 13, or if you have this skeleton in, then that takes you up to 17, just because you are taking a ton of damage. So this really does help pay for one of those big 3-cost events, but also just gives you a little bit more headroom to make sure that you are being safe. Fastball Special is a team-up card for Wolverine and Colossus, saying that you get to deal damage equal to the sum of both of their attacks, and it gets Overkill and Piercing for 1 cost. This is actually the first team-up card that I've run in solo play. You have to have both of the active characters on the table at the same time in order to play these team-up cards, but this one, the upside is just incredible. If you're running an aggression deck with either of these, you can get their attacks up to 4, and then the ally attack is 3, so it's a 1 for 7 damage, which is unheard of. I mean, that's very, very decent damage. And the last card that I want to call out here is, I don't really typically talk about this card because I think it is a little bit of an anomaly, but Symbiote Suit is very good with Wolverine. It basically takes his restriction of not taking too much damage to not die, and kind of throws that out the window, because Symbiote Suit gives you plus 10 hit points, and at that point, if you can get Symbiote Suit on the table, you don't necessarily really care how many cards you're taking damage to pay for. And Symbiote Suit is not one that I put in every single one of my decks, but in solo play, it's almost like a win more card. I feel like if you are able to get Symbiote Suit onto the table, you're going to have a hard time losing unless you double advance or something like that. So Symbiote Suit is very, very strong with Wolverine. Okay, so let's dive in and rank the 4 different aspects, and then once I get to my favorite aspect, I will call that out. And again, a lot of the power comes from his kit cards, so this last place aspect doesn't mean it's a bad aspect whatsoever. In 4th place, we have Justice. One Way or Another is just a incredibly strong build. When you pair it with Tracked by Scent, you play One Way or Another, draw 3 cards, play Tracked by Scent to kill that side scheme, draw 2 more cards, and once you're drawing those 5 cards, you're not up 5 cards because you are playing 2 cards, but you're up a good amount of cards, and with that card draw, you're going to be able to draw into your big attack events, and that's how you just kind of rush and win the game. This is lowest on the list. Justice is lowest on the list because Wolverine can just kind of win before threat is an issue. And so you don't necessarily need One Way or Another. You don't necessarily need to bring out all of these side schemes in order to build yourself up to go for the kill, because Wolverine can kind of just win. Justice is kind of a solve a problem that you create, not necessarily solves a problem that's already present when Wolverine is at the table. The 3rd place is actually kind of a shock, and that's going to be Aggression. Aggression is just a win fast strategy, so it's super effective and really good. You load yourself up with a ton of attack events, and basically you're just going to be able to utilize your claws every single turn and just go face with the villain and try to kill him before he kills you. It can be a little swingy, especially if you're not able to get enough allies on the table. One of the things that I've found with Wolverine is that if you can put chump blockers in front of you, then you're going to be just fine, because then all of the damage is going to be coming from self-inflicted damage with the claws. So if you can have someone take those hits, then you will be okay. But Aggression, you can win in... I think Brant from Step Into the Portal has an aggression deck that he's posted on Facebook where he's saying that he's beating pretty much every single villain in 3 to 4 turns. Aggression is a really incredible aspect with Wolverine, and it's only 3rd place. The next up is my favorite aspect for Wolverine, and that's leadership. And this also is another shout out to Brant. When I was building my deck, he told me to kind of lean into the Recur Jubilee strategy. Jubilee is his signature ally that says whenever she enters play, you choose an enemy, and then whenever Jubilee or Wolverine attacks somebody that turn, you get +2 attack to that target. So if you combine this with Regroup, Rapid Response, Make the Call, all of these cards that can get Jubilee into play, and now to me, my X-Men, right? That's an incredible card that we just got in leadership. You can pull Jubilee out and make her just hit the table, try and get her out there every single turn, and it's going to be a +4 damage. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the way that the leadership played, and leadership is not usually my favorite. I usually have leadership as my least favorite aspect of play. However, this whole kind of, instead of like ally swarm and just focusing on one Jubilee ally, just the one ally, and getting it to the table, hitting the villain with just a ton of damage was a blast. So leadership is number 3. That brings us to the best aspect for him, and that's protection. So he can heal and just go crazy with his attack. So with his claws, you're going to be taking a lot of damage. You have to also be taking damage from the villain attack. However, you can chump block. However, if you chump block, you're not going to be able to trigger his Berserker Frenzy. That's where protection really catapults itself to the top. So protection allows you to run energy barriers or other ways to heal yourself so that you can trigger that Berserker Frenzy, getting that card draw, and then you can either heal with like what doesn't kill me and stand up and attack again. Momentum Shift, I did not play with Momentum Shift in my game that I streamed, because Momentum Shift is heal 2 damage, deal 2 damage, and then it's a 2 cost. So it's effectively a 0 cost with the claws. But what I found is that I like to pay for Momentum Shift to heal myself, not using the claws. So use actual cards to play Momentum Shift, and then you can help heal yourself up. And then, like I was saying, use the energy barriers to mitigate and make sure that only maybe 1 or 2 damage is coming in so you can trigger Berserker Frenzy. And then once it's down to 1 charge left, Repurpose is your best friend. Repurpose stands you up, gives you +2 to your attack. At that point, you're probably swinging for a 5. If Jubilee came out, you're swinging for 7. And I mean, protection is not a I'm going to defend every turn type strategy with Wolverine. Protection is I'm going to heal, I'm going to find tech upgrades, repurpose them, and then win immediately. It's a very exciting way to play. I highly recommend you play it if you have not. It is very close to my favorite. I mean, like, leadership just very rarely inches it out, because I think leadership was a little bit more unique because I have kind of run this type of build before, but it's good. It's a blast. It's a blast to play. Comparing myself to the community, we are pretty dissimilar here. The community voted with over 80% of the vote going into aggression, which is fair in multiplayer. But in solo, he has so much damage output already just in his kit that aggression is piling on to something he's already good at. The community also ranked him neck and neck with an S and an A tier. I also kind of disagree with them on that one. My overall ranking is going to be an S+ tier. I'm putting him right between Doctor Strange and Ham. Honestly, I think he may be better than Doctor Strange. And I feel weird saying that because 2 videos ago I said, we're never going to get anyone that's better than Doctor Strange. And here I am eating my words 2 videos later. But I do think he could be better than Strange. And the reason being is that he does not get hindered if you have a stalwart or steady hero, which does kind of withdraw some of the power that Strange has, because he has a lot of stun, confuse, and he can just kind of stun lock the villain. And that's where Strange gets really good. Wolverine doesn't have any... he doesn't have any status conditions in his kit. And so having a stalwart villain out there, and I did my hero spotlight against a villain who had stalwart in both stages, and Wolverine did not have an issue whatsoever. I have not played him enough. And the only reason I don't have him as the top hero in Marvel Champions today is I need to play him more against a couple more villains. I'm going to give myself a little bit more time to do that. I'm going to run him through Mojo. I'm going to run him through a couple of the other campaigns, just because I need to see him in just the overall picture of what he can be. And then when we do another reevaluation ranking here, I don't know, in a couple months probably, we may move him up to the top. This is absolutely the strongest of the X-Men. I don't think he's necessarily the most fun. I think Storm actually probably takes that for me. Storm, Colossus, Shadowcat, those are epitome of fun, but Wolverine has the strongest unlock. I mean, Wolverine, if you bring Wolverine to the table, you're going to have an easier time than if you bring any of the other heroes to the table. But those are my thoughts on Wolverine. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments what you think about Wolverine. Drop some of your favorite deck lists down there, because I'm with his mechanics, I'm sure that we can get some creative kind of manipulation of some of the cards that I have not yet uncovered. So let me know what you think and some of your decks down below in the comments. Also, down below, you can vote on who I play next. Again, we're kind of in this, I'm just going to call it a dry spell. That's not necessarily what it is. But we are not getting any heroes for a couple months. And so we're going to be able to go back, play some of the older heroes, and you can vote on who those heroes are down below with the link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, you can support it by giving it a like and going ahead and subscribing to the channel. I do a lot of Marvel Champions content, and I would be happy to have you follow along. Thank you so very much for hanging out and watching the Wolverine recap. Hope to see you around, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.